Right, morning, welcome everybody. A little bit of a blast from the past. Some of us might be old enough to remember that, some of us might not be, but I hadn't remembered the words myself until I looked it up. It's actually quite good. So this morning we're talking about personal growth. How does it happen? I don't know, my wife keeps on telling me it's because I eat too much. That's why I keep on growing. So I mean, it's but I don't think that's what we're talking about this morning. So we'll have to take a quick shot left and maybe change the subject and see what it's really all about. So, Lee, personal growth, what is it all about?
Thanks, Ivan. I love the eclectic choice of music. full range. Yeah, so personal growth, how does it happen? Again, just a reflection on how I've experienced personal growth in my life, and that's trusting that I have had personal growth. I do feel like I've grown. I do feel like I'm somebody who's not the same as I was a year ago, or certainly 30 years ago. But you know, what has contributed to that personal growth? I think there's a number of things. The one where I find I'm forced to grow is when I say forced to grow. I don't think you have to grow that way, but I find myself in difficult situations where you have to dig deep. I find those are moments where I discover strengths or attributes or needing to draw on parts of myself that I didn't realize were there. And that, example of that was when looking after my dad when he was dying. There've been various other moments, difficult times where you really have to find that inner strength. And that's been times of personal growth for me. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is setting a goal and going for it and finding. So that might be like the 301 kilometer walk that I did, setting that goal and working towards it and achieving it, starting my business. And those goals very often involve learning new things. And we keep speaking about, the learning curve of last year, but that was related to I'm determined to reach a certain goal, or I see something ahead, or I'm wanting to achieve something, and putting my mind and my effort to it, and learning new skills, learning new ways of doing things, and that stretches my brain. Even yesterday, I had an appointment with my youngest daughter, who's the social media guru in our family, and just trying to understand again how ad campaigns work, and it was mind stretching, and just having to think about it and understand it was a moment of growth. So that's certainly an experience then. And then I think the last thing I want to say about where I've experienced personal growth is through others. And that might be in conversations like this. It might be in meetings with my partners like Ivan and Trevor. It might be even family conversations around Sunday lunch. And then especially reading books, watching movies, have been sparks. There've been sparks that have just an aha moment, or a trigger that says, oh, okay, I get that. I understand that. That makes sense. Or I hadn't thought of it like that. And it just gives a different perspective, and I see things. And as I know that Ben, I've forgotten his name, but he's a conductor of the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. He says, once you know something, you can't unknow it. And it's an obvious thing to say, but it just makes sense that, your mind is now open. It can't just get closed again. And then, sorry, I kept saying the last thing, but the other thing that I wanted to mention is reflection on past events. Reflection on my life has also been very, very important, because just because something's happened doesn't mean that you grow from it. Reflecting on it, thinking about it, understanding it, delving into it, it's also been a source of personal growth for me. So I just wanted to start off the conversation, and I hope I haven't stolen anyone's thunder, but I'm sure many people have their own way of growing and thinking about personal growth. So would love to hear your stories.
Great, thanks, Lee. Right, Ed, let's kick off with you this morning.
Yeah, thanks, Ivan. I think the whole subject is maybe derived from an incorrect premise, because yesterday, I think it was Ivan that said that there was exponential growth in technology and our mind works in a linear fashion. And I don't think that's true. And it could be because Ivan's into computers, and there are problems that a computer can't solve and a human being can. There's a whole branch of mathematics devoted to those sorts of problems that computers can't solve. And I don't think we do think linear, can't even say the word now, because sometimes we make quantum leaps in our thinking, and we join up dots that kind of, you think, well, why have we joined those up? Or, you know, we sit under an apple tree and then suddenly discover gravity, as Newton did when an apple fell on his head, allegedly, you know. So I don't think we do think linearly. And then I thought about personal growth. Well, what does personal growth mean? And I immediately started thinking about learning. That was my first thought. And you know, I think with learning, yeah, very often it's not a linear journey. You know, I was thinking about the fact that what helps you learn, and some of it's experience. You know, you put your hand in the fire and you decide that's not a good idea and you don't do it again. And I think a lot of learning's like that, not as dramatic, but it is. But it's also, Lee said it, when you stretch yourself, when you put yourself in difficult situations. And I thought about running, you know, when I first started, because that's what I do and I'm obsessed with it. When I first started running, it was a linear growth, you know, and all the training plans say you increase the distance you go by 10% at a time. And I saw as I increased my distances, my times came down. It was a nice linear growth. Then I plateaued. I didn't get any better. I mixed my training up a bit, did some stuff called hill reps and interval training and fartleks, and I got a little bit better. Then I plateaued again, and then I started a gradual decline as I got older. And when I got to about 64, I fell off a cliff with my running. I think a lot of people find that. So I think, you know, that's one pattern. And then with my Spanish learning, which I'm doing at the moment, I made no progress forever. I was just like learning a few, and I see Jasper had the same experience. I was just learning a few words, a few grammar tweaks, and then all of a sudden I kind of got it. And I made big progress. But I think, you know, it's a bit like a house. It takes ages for the groundworks and the foundations to go in. Then all of a sudden you see the walls go up and the roof go on, and you think, wow, that wasn't there yesterday. And then you wait forever for the people to move in because they're doing all the internal fitting out, putting in the internal walls, the plumbing, the electrics, plastering the walls, decorating. And that's what, like my Spanish, I think before I go from, you know, being able to speak a little bit of Spanish to being native, I've got to do that internal building. And then I thought, well, you know, personal growth isn't all about learning. You can learn stuff and still be an absolute bastard, really, without having grown into a person. And what is it that makes us grow that way? And it is experiences. I suppose some experiences can take us backwards, perhaps. and retreat into ourselves. So yeah, I think that's really it. And I think also we tend to have, and you've touched on it, Lee, those aha moments. And it can come from a sudden realization, or it can, I remember when I struggled with calculus at school. I think most people struggle to study with calculus at school. And it wasn't until we got a supply teacher who explained it slightly differently that I had that aha moment. And the scales fell from my eyes. I've never understood that phrase, you know, and I saw it clearly. So I think sometimes it is, we do have those quantum leaps, those huge, not linear changes, but exponential changes. We didn't know, then we knew. We didn't understand, then we understood. You know, it's like a sort of Damascus moment. We suddenly change as a person. So that's my thoughts. A bit of a ramble, but I'm getting on a bit.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Yeah, I think, you know, that tends to happen to most of us eventually, but so we better get across to Herman after that comment. So Herman, your thoughts on personal growth?
Thanks, Ivan. You know, when I saw the subject yesterday, I immediately reflected and said, what does it mean and where did my personal growth come from? And I think number one, for me personally, is curiosity. I think that's the biggest driver for me to grow in my learning, as Ed referred to, but as a person as well. And then for me, the tools are listening, observing, reflecting, and questioning. These are the tools for me to learn and to grow as a person. You know, I strongly believe that we can experience exponential growth, the aha moments being an example. But I also think if we kind of shift to a different level of consciousness, that is not something that happens over time. I think that the foundation is being laid over time, but all of a sudden it is there. And we realize, my God, I see things definitely differently and with a much wider kind of aspect than before. And to give you an example, I was invited to a group that meets once every week. It's called Full Circle, and we have conversations about human nature, intellectual independence, economic independence, what does capitalism mean? And these conversations are so challenging and enlightening. And they make me grow as a person, because sometimes I don't like that, and I wanted to go in with quite a, should I say, a radical response. On reflection, I realized that's not a good thing to do, which makes me a different person, because not only being a German, but by nature, I can be very, you know. So yes, I think I believe in personal growth. I have experienced it. And I also believe it's possible to exponentially grow. Thank you.
Thanks, Herman. Some great pointers in there. Thank you. Right, Meneer Klute.
Morning, all. Yeah, good topic. And, you know, with all the sort of topics that we choose, it can easily take you on, onto many other side roads. I'm happy Lee basically said everything I wanted to say. But I was just making a few side notes here. And I think the first note that came up for me was personal growth is as a result of renewing of the mind. So it then says, yes, the mind is not static. The mind can be changed. And I think all of us have over time, what we felt strong about many years ago, we no longer feel strong about, and we might even go and make a 180-degree change. But I think the and there's always value in someone taking control of his, call it his own growth path, to say, I want to learn more about that, and I start to expose myself onto those skills and those people who are good at that path. But the renewing of the mind that I'm referring to is almost, in my case, was to make a discovery of, yes, there is a creator, and the creator only create good, and if he's created me and plans for me to not to harm me but to prosper me, do I choose then to hang on, or do I choose to look at my circumstances and make that part of my thing? So it's that constant process of, and his instruction then is take thought captive. So when you have negative thoughts coming up, you know, to take it captive. Now that becomes in itself a difficult exercise. So over time you learn how to distinguish with what thoughts are going to grow you versus what thoughts are going to diminish you. And it's almost like you would exercise the muscles. You have to exercise that kind of process in your own mind. Then she has said that reflection. I made a comment there, honest introspection. So she said just the fact that it happened before doesn't mean you learn from it, unless you then have introspection on it. So I fully agree on that. And then it's a choice to constantly expose yourself to new situations. You know, we've got the TV with the full bouquet and all the other stuff, but my wife's been away for a week with her niece and only coming back tomorrow night. So there's stuff that we watch together. So I left that, and this week I could play around and watch some other stuff. And I came across two programs that I watched over the week. The one is, I think it's just called The Future, and it was 3 programs about changes in aviation, another one changes in wind energy, and the last one that I watched last night was on fusion, that could be an ongoing source of energy going into the future. And I was just mind boggled that people can think at that scale. And the one on the fusion, for instance, they managed to, first of all, one fusion reactor, which currently doesn't exist except on a few pilot plants and mostly theory, but call it $20 billion to build this fusion reactor, and they don't know that it will work. It will be a prototype. And they have 35 countries involved with their scientists to work together, and it's been going now over several years, and there's another 5 years before this final reactor will be there. So I was just amazed at what is possible when people can allow themselves to grow, So I was encouraged to say, maybe I'm not thinking big enough. So I think the point I wanted to make out of all of this is what is there that's still possible? And then I listened to Theo Verster's business talk. So he's got a program of three things, and I just listened to the first thing. And it's again, he opened up with a comment that to say nothing is new. And we had pestilences before, we had wars before, and people survived it. Here we are, and we are the generations after that. So let's hold on to the fact that we will survive this, and not just survive, we'll come out strong. So I think that's the value of these kind of talks, to say, consciously grow yourself. And I think the other thing that Herman and Ed alluded to is it's not linear growth. You grow almost in static, and then massive growth, and then static again. And I was just thinking, maybe part of the growth is discovering yourself, and everybody goes through that. So you're not your father, you're not your mother, you're not your growing up circumstances, but then who are you? And then a whole set of circumstances shape you and form you, and somewhere along the line you have these aha moments, and then sooner or later you come to that part of yourself that you feel totally comfortable in that skin. And then the growth that then happens is more like a tweaking to say, what will make me the best? But sometimes that tweaking is harder than the initial aha moments that give you rapid growth. So yes.
Thanks, Jasper. Right, so nothing keeps on changing, but change is the only constant. So, right, let's get across to the retina group.
Who would you be pointing to?
I wasn't pointing to anybody. I don't believe pointing is polite. So.
All right. Well, seeing as the rat is not standing up and talking, I'll just come in because that was an uncomfortable silence. So let me. The one thing that I haven't heard in this little grouping is the mantra that if you're not growing, you're dying. And I think that's what nature points out to us, that all things are transient. And I'm certainly one that actually goes with that particular comment. I think if you're not growing, you're actually dying. So by not having this, and I loved Herman's input there. Good to have you back, Herman. I just haven't had any decent debate for about 3 months. How long have you been away? But I love the fact that you brought up this thing of curiosity and exploration, and Jasper talking about his wife going away with her knees. I don't know what's wrong with her knees, but I'm sure it must be her niece, right? He took the time to actually get into a little sideline thing of the fusion, and for me, that's where major advances take place, because I'm certain someone like Tesla and static electricity that has probably resulted now in Elon Musk ready to tour the universe. All came back to someone like Jasper watching the fusion thing and these, I don't know how many billion you were talking about. And Jasper just sitting outside could have the single solution that they're all looking for. But it is because he pushes a blooming lawnmower in his conference facility, and he was able to connect the one dot that they were all missing. And it's about this having the curiosity factor, the ability to go into areas that you know nothing about and just experience what's there. And perhaps you are the missing link that actually bridges everything that becomes a solution. Curiosity, exploration, getting yourself into new areas. So that's something that is around my mind. And there's one other point. I've got my little 12-year-old. I just love what is going on at the moment with what has come out of COVID-19. That's forced us all to explore and all to test working from home and this Zoom. I just love this. But I'm thinking she came in this morning and she grabbed a notepad out of my laptop bag, which I haven't switched on for years. And she said, no, if you're not going to use it, I'm going to use it. And now she's making it talk and sing like I've never been able to do. And I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? At 60, in my 67th year, I'm blooming jealous of this girl at 12 years. She has just leapfrogged everything that I've tried to grasp here. And I know that Ivan's been absolutely useless at educating me in terms of technology, because I've missed 1,000 years between being who I am as a baby boomer and these millennials that just pick up this technology and are able to switch it on. So if you're not growing, you're dying. You've got to get out there and explore. These are things that I pick up. And the other is I'm so blooming jealous of all these youngsters who have got their futures ahead of them with all this new technology. I think it's exciting times, and I think it went back, it might have been Ed who turned around, that perhaps we're living in a time of massive quantum exponential change. Gee, what can be more exciting than this?
Maybe just another awkward silence. Yeah, so yeah, I think a great discussion, guys. And I was worried that Herman and Trevor were going to steal my thunder a little bit there, but they only got only got to the first word, which for me is absolutely critical in the whole process, and that is curiosity. So there I agree 100%. It's got to start with curiosity. If you aren't curious, well, maybe you should be dead. Never mind dying. So I think to stay young, stay curious, and once you've got curious about something, then you can get interested in it. And once you've got interested in it, then you can gain some knowledge in it. And once you gain some knowledge, you can gain some belief in it. And that for me is a process of personal development. It doesn't really matter what it is. If you can follow those couple of simple steps. You can learn anything, you can develop anything, you can become anything, and I think the other thing that has come out of my years of really being fascinated with this particular topic is, the whole thing about people want to have, but they're not prepared to do. So that process also, they think, well, if I have this, then I can do that, and I'll become that. When it's actually completely the other way around. So you've got to do it. Then you can have it, and then you can become. So it all starts with doing. It doesn't start with the other side. If I win the lotto, we spoke about the lotto the other day, then I'll have all these wonderful things. Well, guess what? It ain't going to happen that way around. And even if it does, it probably won't result in the results that you anticipated that it would. So yeah. I think just in a wrap-up nutshell, those are my simple thoughts on a complex topic. Just stay young, stay curious, stay involved, stay engaged, and you will continue to grow. And be prepared to learn from your failures, which I think was said as well. So, if you're not prepared to learn from your failures, you failed. If you are prepared to learn from your failures, then you've grown and you've learned. And we always learn more from our failures than we do from our successes. So fail forward, fail fast, and fail frequently. Lots of fuzz in that, so on. So, Lee, on that furry note, I'll hand back to you.
Thanks, Ivan. I think, 6 people just reflecting on one seemingly simple topic, and there's been a rich array of thoughts, and that's why I when I write my emails, I really want people to listen to the recordings, because there really is wisdom here, and it would spark personal growth. So yeah, and also to invite more people to participate. So that's certainly something that we would like to see, these conversations reach a wider audience, because I think they touch on real topics that can help us to grow. Edward.
Just on the subject of wider audiences, would anyone mind if I took a screenshot so I can use it on social media to promote the event? Is that okay?
Thanks for checking, Edward, but please go ahead. Yeah,
Lee, can I just interrupt there? Yesterday, I'm sitting here in the office, so I'm manning the gate and people coming in and out, and we have a lady guest staying here, and she was waiting for a lift, but it was raining outside. So I said to her, "Come and sit inside." So it was just when our meeting started. I just briefly explained to her that that's the nature of the group, and it runs for about 30 minutes and so. So she sat in for about 20 minutes of that before her lift arrived. And then this morning she came to me, she's checking out, but she came to me, she said, I just wanted to come and tell you, I really enjoyed listening to that I listened to, and I would like to be connected. And I told my friend about it too. Yeah, and I do agree. You know, people need to taste it or test it, and then the growth will come. But yes, I do believe it fulfills a necessary function to get people up and running for the rest of the day.
Thanks, Jasper. I was just saying goodbye to Herman. Yeah, that's lovely. Lovely to hear that. My husband's in the background. He's often sort of just pottering around in the kitchen just behind me, and he's listening in, and ideas spark for him. So he might not be he might not be talking, but he certainly is participating in one way or another. So yeah, there are those the influence that you don't even realize. So I'd like to think about topic for Monday, and I want to open it to the group. So where would you like to go from here? Do you have something in mind that is stimulating for you that you'd like to pose as a question or a topic, or do we just do open mic?
Yes, Ed. Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Edward.
Well, I think, unless Ivan wanted to say something, but it was something that Trevor said about sort of the time we live in and waves and all that sort of stuff. And I wondered, you know, is it best to surf the wave, catch the wave and surf it and ride with it? Or is it perhaps sometimes worth ducking under the wave? Is that something we could think of? I don't know whether it sort of got any legs, that one.
We know it does, Edward. we know that whatever we throw into the pot, we're going to ride it or duck it one way or the other. So I'm happy to go with that.
Great. All right. So go surfing this weekend, folks, and find out where your passion and your courage lies. And come back and we'll talk surfing stories on Monday. So have a great weekend, and we'll see you then. Cheers.